Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Red Loosey podcast. My name is Lucy and today I'm here with Dianne Wolfer, author, West Australian author of over 20 books that have won a ton of awards. And she's written everything from historical narratives to children's books to PhDs. So welcome!
Thank you so much.
How are you?
It's the end of the Lit Centre week. I've done 5 weeks, as you know, because you were there yesterday.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, it's been a really busy week, but so my voice might be a bit husky.
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, it's been a fantastic week with young writers like you. Just their ideas are really refreshing, and it's fantastic. The only thing is that it's so fast-paced, which it has to be, that you're just getting to know someone and their writing and their stories, and it's time to go to the next session.
Yeah, from thing to thing. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
But I will put my feet up tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to start off with a bit of a quick fire segment.
Okay.
So I'm going to do this or that, and just answer the first thing that comes to mind.
No obsessive thinking.
Yes. So smart or casual?
Oh, I'm obsessing already.
That's fine.
Casual.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Ooh, faction.
That's fine. Reading or writing?
Writing.
Left or right?
Right.
You right-handed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my mum's a lefty, and I'm
a lefty.
Oh, yeah. Good people are lefties, but I feel the world should be more organised.
Yeah.
I empathise.
TV shows or movies?
Oh, movies.
Night or day?
Early morning, I think, is lovely.
Same, I love sunrise. And the next one, sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Rain or shine?
Shine.
Invisibility or flight?
Invisibility or flight? I think flight, I suppose. That's a big one to think about. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Invisible.
It's the power of it.
The power of it, which is more powerful. Well, maybe actually no. I'm going to change to invisible.
Okay.
Sometimes it's fun to be invisible.
I'd love to be invisible.
Be
Sometimes,
good.
like sneak in the.
I know.
Don't tell anyone.
I know.
Cafe or restaurants?
Cafe.
Sweet or savoury?
I think savoury.
And last but not least, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
You need it to keep powering?
First thing in the morning it has to be tea, like English breakfast preferably, and then by about 10 a.m. it has to be coffee.
Yeah. You reach that point. It's like,
yeah, I do.
So now for the longer question.
Okay.
I read on your website that you wrote a PhD, and I hope I pronounced this right, on anthropomorphism.
Oh, you're so close. Anthropomorphism.
Yes, I'm not going to say it
again. No, go again.
What is that, and how do you even start to write something like that?
It's just, I love it. I think since I was really little, I've always loved animal stories, and like just looking around this beautiful room, I can see so many great animal stories. And animals can be used in such interesting ways. I think sometimes when people think anthropomorphism, which is giving human characteristics to animal characters, like dressing them, or they play the trumpet, or they speak in words, they think it's for little kids. But there's books like Animal Farm and Mouse and so many big, fabulous
and they do like a
books.
lot.
Yeah, and Sarah Dwondovy has got a short story collection called Only the Animals, and I tend to seek out books that have animal characters, like The Art of Driving in the Rain or Lily and the Octopus. These are more for adults, but I don't think they have to be. But I just love them. I just think that you can use an animal. An animal can, it can be a buffer to difficult things.
Yeah.
But I think you can also explore topics through animals in a different way. There's more of a direct raw power or interest. And then you bring all the metaphoric qualities.
Yeah.
So like you've got, when you think dog, you think loyal. When you think fox, you think trickster. So as part of the PhD, I was really curious to look at whether Australian animals have emerging metaphoric qualities. Like we know what dogness is, or fox or lion.
Yeah.
But is there a wombat thing or a koala? Yeah. And there actually is. It's really, usually in Australia, ever since the first Australian children's book, animals have been used in different ways. Environmentally, a lot of ways, but also wombats and koalas are the child stand-in. They're sort of round and cuddly.
Yeah, they are.
Whereas in the early days, the kangaroos, back when people saw real kangaroos, and those big male kangaroos were like so muscular. So they were serious adult characters. And then I guess as people moved to cities and didn't see that kangaroo. They just saw kangaroos on TV.
Yeah.
Or Skippy.
Yeah.
I love Skippy so much. It's hilarious to watch it now. But the kangaroo characters shifted. So instead of them being very adult characters like Dot and the kangaroo, or they became more like fun child characters.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting things.
Now, I know I definitely heard you talk about this, but can you tell everyone who Skippy is?
Skippy? Well, you know, probably regret that on the film. But anyway, Skippy was this when I was a kid, back in the dark ages. There was this kangaroo, and I think they actually must have had a kangaroo paw of a dead kangaroo, which occasionally, when the kangaroo needed to look into, like, open a door or something, this weird hand would come up and but this kangaroo was there, and it'd just go, and then the boy would say, "What's that, Skip? Helicopter crashed in the gully," and Skippy would go, and they'd go, "Oh, down by the river then." He'd go, "Oh, let's go straight away." And it was like a few funny little clicks would be interpret, like he had kangaroo language down pat.
Do you think that could have like sparked some of like your interest in the big word that I'm not going to say?
No. It might have. I think also I loved the muddle-headed wombat when I was little, and I had this wombat obsession, and I wanted to be like, I was a wombat. You know how people love horses? You know how a lot of the girls, particularly horses,
horse girls,
and gallop. And so ages ago I wrote a book called Horse Mad about that, which sadly is out of print. But I wanted to be a wombat for a long time, and I just would crawl around the house trying to make wombat noises and needed to be referred to as wombat, you know. But I don't think I changed to another animal, sort of exploring.
Yeah.
I think it's quite usual that kids do that.
Yeah, I think I used to pretend to be a donkey and kind of walk around the house on all fours.
That's fun. Yeah.
Now, next question. You have written some beautiful historical narratives, like the Light series and the Dog with Seven Names. So where was your inspiration behind those, and how did you even start to research all of the history?
The history was big. The Lighthouse Girl began when I read a newspaper article in 2005, I think it was, which just touched on the fact that all those ships had stopped in Albany's King George Sound and to take on fuel and food, and before they sailed away, and that there was a girl called Catherine Howe, whose dad was the lighthouse keeper on Breaksea Island, and they wanted to send final messages back to their loved ones, so they realised that she had the semaphore out there. So they signalled to her, she had the telegraph, sorry. And so they used probably semaphore flags to contact her, and they then, she sent their messages back. So then they sailed away and they sent back these postcards addressed to the little girl on Breaksea Island. So that's what I read, just that snippet, and I wanted to find out more about the postcards, and then I met her son, who's still alive with us, and he didn't know much about his mum, so I needed to do a lot more research. And at the time, nobody really knew about. Now, if I go to the National Anzac Centre, I could research in Albany. I could research everything in a day. But it took me 3 to 4 years. So I had to go through microfiche, and go to Trove to look up old newspapers and interview historians and face family. But I was thinking picture book because I knew I wanted to be really visual. So I kind of started to squash this huge story into 32 pages and sent it to Fremantle Press. And Kate Sutherland is a really wise editor, and she liked it but felt that it could be something different. And it was really great to publish with them because they just let it be what it needed to be. And so then we were looking for an illustrator, which is difficult because so many of these beautiful books are bright and cheerful. We needed something more historic, old-fashioned, a bit more sombre, but still uplifting. And so she found Brian Simmons. She'd done a class with him and knew he'd used charcoal. And so it then became this layering of the text and his beautiful artwork and the beautiful old photos, and then just trying to pull it together into a story and using old postcards. And it seemed to, I guess it struck a chord in that a lot of the war books were by people who, about the soldier's point of view, whereas this was a young woman's point of view in Australia. So it was for the people who stayed behind, who had their own stories, and it's very visual as well, signalling. It's just a different angle on a war story that's bit more hope perhaps.
You've got all these like really, when you read through non-fiction historical, you hear about the war, but historical fiction kind of zooms in on like individual people.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it, but it's really challenging to then have to. I love all the details. I find them fascinating, and so I do all these details, and I try and put them in. And the first draft is full of lots of details. And then I know I can almost hear my Kate Sutherland's the children's publisher's voice saying, "Does that add to the story arc?"
Yeah, I don't want to take it out.
Does. And so then, and also Fran Ellis said, "Teacher's notes, Dianne, teacher's notes." So I try and keep those two voices and think, all right. Is this actually moving the story along? And so often it's just something that fascinates me, which is great. I can put it aside. And Lighthouse Boy came out of the research for Lighthouse Girl. That was initially just about the journey, the men's journey and the boat journey and all the great things that happened on that journey. And I left them sitting on a pyramid waiting to see what the year ahead would bring. Not great for Charlie. But then Kate again had said, look, maybe take them into the war a little bit. And then I think she regretted that probably because 4 years later, 4 years of war later in the story, it became so dense, there was so much that when we came back to editing it, the bit that had to go was the journey, the ship journey. It's like, oh no.
You had all this
great I had so many great things and photos of the horses and the crossing the equator and anyway, some of that's now, I've been able to squeeze a little bit more into the book I'm working on now. Ooh. Secret. So next March, the 4th, I said only one, and then I said only two, and then it was definitely only two.
Yeah.
And then in the lamplight, and then that was it, I'm over. World War One stops for me. But I think Sandy just kept galloping around my head. Yeah. It's like, he's got his own story of the only horse that came back. Yeah. And so that's next March that will come out.
Very excited, yeah.
Yeah.
And now a bit of a simpler one. It might not be simple, but what genre do you like to write in the most?
Oh, it's so hard. I guess I love picture books, but picture books are the hardest. And it's very hard. It's like a poetic thing to capture this moment and not over tell and then leave space. It's like the never-ending quest to get a picture book. Yeah. I mean, I have 3. Photographs in the Mud is historical fiction, which of course was my first, and it's at 1,200 words, which is really long. Yeah. Granny Gourmet and Me about the surfing grannies in Albany, that did well. That was a shortlisted, which is exciting. CBCA. Nana's Button-Tin's gone into the US, so those latter two are very much a regular picture book.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's hard to get that beginning, middle, end into 500 words with a character given.
You have to squeeze it in.
Yeah.
But also have it kind of spaced out so it's interesting.
That's right, and leave space. Amazingly, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had an idea in the night and I couldn't get to sleep. I had too much going on in my head. So I wrote it down. I thought, no, this is actually quite a good idea. Yeah. And then I wrote it and the next morning I thought, I like this idea. I might just try and write it as a first draft. And I did. And then I worked on it that afternoon. I was meant to do other things. And then over a few days I worked on it. It's only 150 words, but I think it actually really works, which is for me a first to do it so easily. Yeah. And I've now sent it, like my agent has sent it to a publisher.
Exciting.
And so who knows, that might, I'd really love that to be, and it's only 150 words, which is for me very succinct. Yeah. So I guess, I've forgotten what your question was to do with historical fiction. I love historical fiction and I love animal stories. Yeah. They're my favourites. I just do love picture books. I love that format and I like playing with the format. So Lighthouse Girl and the series are picture books, of course, but they're unusual picture books.
Definitely.
And at the time, I really admire Fremantle Press's courage in doing that because there was nothing like that out there. Yeah. So they really took a chance and explored that. Yeah. Which is great.
Turned out really well. I love it.
Thanks, it's well, and then it got turned into a play and all that.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And I've asked a couple of authors this, but I always find different answers really interesting. When you begin a book, what do you start with? A concept, a character, a place, or a thing, or something completely different?
Oh, wow. It does vary a little bit. Often it's something, I think it's often thematic. I know some people start with a character. Yeah. For me, it's more of a theme or an issue something that I care about, that bothers me. Though then again, I guess Lighthouse Girl began with Faye. And the Munjed Al-Mudiris, that was the commission. That was commissioned for the Aussie stem cell. So that started with a person because that's what it needed to be, his story, like telling his story. I think The Dog with Seven Names began with a moment in history that I found fascinating. It was the Flying Doctor was coming into land at Port Hedland in 1942 and then witnessed the strafing of the Port Hedland airstrip. And I really wanted to explore that moment in history. So that was a moment in history. And then so many of the younger people had been evacuated, and so and plus it was anthropomorphic, so I put a dog in.
Of course.
So the dog tells the story. The shark call is just so weird. That took me 10 years from idea through drafts. That was the longest. Just kept coming back to it. That I think that explores grief, and at the time, I lost someone special, and so that was, I think, a way of writing that out of my like trying to explore that a bit. So
So it kind of varies.
It varies, and I think it's different for each book. The one that I just spoke about, this picture book, if it ever becomes one, I'd read something interesting that sparked an idea. Someone was asking about a certain type of book, and it just gave me an idea. So that, I guess, it varies. What about you? How does it work for you?
I think it's kind of the same. Like,
it varies?
Yeah, or sometimes I have like a character that I just want to write down and I try them out with different things, but definitely across different things I write, it varies.
And that's great. And do you keep them all, and you're keeping drafts? Great.
Now, something I'm also really interested in, when you begin a story, do you have a whole idea, or do you just kind of have a little bit and then just start writing?
It varies. I think it's really important to try and think about the ending, to see where you want it to end. That to get that bit of an overview as to where it will go, because I find if I don't know my end scene, I know some people, there's the pantsers or the plotters. I'm more of a plotter, for sure. And I know some people just let their characters, I guess they know their characters so well that they just put it into situations and see what the character will do. That's not me. No. I will more probably have a situation and then put my character in to explore it. But I do have a reasonably clear idea of where I want them to go. And for me, it's helpful to look at the story arc, because otherwise I go off and to then think about, how's the shape of this working? And I've learned over time that if I put the effort in the beginning, once I've got the idea, it's just get the idea down, be excited, think about the characters and explore it. But once I think, this is something I do want to pursue, then I want to put time into, then it's really worth me thinking of the plot before I go too far, because otherwise I waste time. And I don't want to, like what I did with Lighthouse Boy, it took months of all this fabulous research, and I don't want to do that. So like I tell myself, just write a dreadful draft and get to the end. But what I tend to do is, it's like I'll go back to my first chapter and I think, before I get into the next bit, I'll just reread the first bit. And so I just reread the first bit and I think, so I do all the editing and smooth it. But then that gets really good and I just go a little bit further and then I do the same and then that gets better and then I go a bit further. Whereas I think it would be actually really helpful to just get to the end and just write anything. So I haven't seemed to achieve that yet. But what I do
One day.
So what I do is I map out the chapters. So it's a bit like doing a jigsaw puzzle. I've got those first few chapters that are coming together quite well, and then I'll take notes for the rest of them, and then I might even write my end scene, or I just jump in. It's like, what do I like today?
Around,
I feel like writing about whatever today is this exciting moment, or a quiet moment, or exploring a character moment. So, and then it's a bit like if I had a jigsaw on the table and I've got my edges in, and then I might I'll do that bit, I'll do that bit, I'll do that bit, and sooner or later, eventually,
it all comes together.
Hopefully.
Now, apparently you were invited to compose an ode for the Albany Entertainment Centre.
Well researched, Loosey.
What does that mean? Like, what did you write?
Well, it was very odd. This is so long ago, because the Entertainment Centre had its 10-year anniversary. I was in Esperance. I remember I was at an Esperance thing, and Sue Lefroy from the Historical Collection rang and said, look, they want someone to do an ode to the new. The building wasn't open or finished. And I'm like, I'm not a poet.
Yeah. It's like, what?
Why doesn't someone ask one of the poets?
Yeah.
And they said, no, they want you to do it. They think you'd be good. And so I think I looked up, Googled what actually is an ode.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's almost like it's kind of like a blessing or nice words that you say at the opening of a building. A bit about the building, perhaps, a bit about the history, where it is. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And it was an honour. I was thrilled to be asked. Yeah. But then what happened is I tried to handball it to my friend Marie Dawes, who's a poet.
Yeah, take it.
She's such a beautiful wordsmith, and I thought she's going to be heaps better than me. But so what they ended up doing was then they had me and they had Marie Dawes and Kim Scott. So the three of us we each did a kind of we chose past, present, future.
Yeah.
And then, so I think I started, and basically, welcome, this is a place where people have been, or maybe Kim started. Marie was, Kim must have started. It's on, they've got a website somewhere.
Yeah.
So Kim would have started, of course, and gave the Indigenous history. And then I had that it was a meeting place for sealers and whalers and settlers, and it's mostly been a place of friendship, that particular area. And then Marie took it a step further into the modern. So, it was really exciting. So we were the first ones up on the stage when it opened. And, so then Kim welcomed, and then me, and then Marie. Yeah. Yeah, it was really an honour. Yeah. It's really special.
And, what award are you most proud of? Because I know you've won a lot.
What award am I most proud of?
Or means the most to you,
Well, it's always lovely to be honoured in WA, of course. That's fantastic. And like if you're shortlisted for the CBCA, I've never won the CBCA, but I've been shortlisted and for a few. And just getting a notable is a thrill. Yeah, definitely. It's great that kids are reading your books. I love that. But I think when the New South Wales being shortlisted for the... Oh, actually, no. What did I...
That's totally fine.
Should know this. No, I was shortlisted. I won the New South Wales Premier's Award. Yes, I did. And I've been shortlisted for it before.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, which was lovely.
Trying to remember.
Friday afternoon, there's a beautiful award, the Society... Nance Donkin Award, the Society of Children's Book Women Writers.
Yeah.
It's a biennial. Every second year they'll give it to someone, and they gave that to me, which was such an honour. That was beautiful. And the Environment Award, that's special. That's all special. Yeah. They're all special. But really, even the ones that some have money attached and some don't, but just to know that someone values your work, and that the Children's Choice ones are so special because they're chosen by
Yeah. And apparently, Lighthouse Girl was also made into a play. That's crazy.
I know, that was so exciting. And it was Lighthouse Girl and Lighthouse Boy.
Yeah.
So Helly Turner, who's an amazing playwright, she rewrote those as a play, and they were performed by Black Swan Theatre. So around about the 2014-2015 commemoration of World War One. Lighthouse Girl opened in Albany, the play. Yeah. And when they had the commemoration in 2014, they had the scenes from the book and voiceover. That was a different thing. The voiceovers were being projected onto walls in Albany. Then they projected this at this massive across the roof of the entertainment centre in Albany. Yeah. They had projections of actors reading, and the postcards, and it was just like this open air amazing thing. It was really special. But then it was Black Swan Theatre did take it, Albany, and then Perth, and then it's travelled around WA. So
wow, that's fantastic.
It was exciting. It's lovely when those things happen because someone takes your work to another level. It's exciting.
Now, I have seen on your website that you have gone all around the world to research your books, and all these photos.
When you could, back in those days.
When you could, I mean, you've gone to up north, but also to Asia and stuff.
Well, sometimes the journey sparks a story. Yeah. So like Photographs in the Mud, I went there to research a different book that's never been published. One day I'll get back to it perhaps and try again. But when I was there, I passed this tree stump where a Japanese soldier hid in 1942, and he then rolled down this hill and was in a ditch with an Australian soldier, and they had this moment of common humanity, and that scene just stayed in my mind and became, don't think that was it, but it became, that's all right, I've got it. It became this, then so the story, I like running from different points of view.
Yeah.
So you've got the Australian soldier and the Japanese soldier, so it's both of them set out in Papua New Guinea's Kokoda Track, and then they meet in battle, and then they slide down this hill, and they have this moment of common humanity.
Yeah.
So I guess that happened because I walked the Kokoda Track in 2002 with a group of guys who had family members who had been up there. It was only a really small group. It was before it was a popular thing to do. So that sparked that book. When I was in London, so my husband and I went to Gallipoli. Yeah. He laid a wreath at Lone Pine, which was amazing. So we came back via London, and I knew that there was this little village, Harefield, just north of London, where the grave of an Australian soldier that I wanted to research. He led a Kui march in New South Wales. So I went there to research him, and then I realised that there was this whole graveyard, World War I graveyard, 112, I think, 111, and then one nurse. And I was talking to a lady, and she said, no, there was an Australian hospital here, and then that grew and became a big hospital, and so many thousands of men were treated there, and Australian nurses worked there, and Kangaroo was there, and there's all this great stuff. So I went with her up to it then has become one of the UK's biggest hospitals. Yeah. So we went up, and I went into the foyer, and there were photos of the men and the kangaroo, and that's what started in the lamplight. So I guess I went there to research something else that hasn't been written, and probably won't now. It's that commemorative time's gone now. But that led to another story. Yeah. So sometimes you ask somewhere to do a research trip, and it sparks another thing. Yeah. It's weird. But the research trip, then it's important to go there. My sister worked in Papua New Guinea. Yeah. So we went there. We were in the New England province one Christmas at a dive resort, and I like scuba diving. And so while we were there, I just fell in love with the reef there, and heard about this traditional practice of shark calling, which wasn't right in where we were, but I heard about it. And then sort of all these ideas swirling together, and that's what became the shark caller. Yeah. So I didn't go there to research it. Likewise, and after the dog story idea, I specifically went up there to research it. So, but I guess if you're open to things, you don't know where ideas will come from. There's always ideas everywhere. In this room, there's a lot of ideas. Yeah, I know. So these beautiful books. What a beautiful place to have
and all the art.
I know. Some buddies, some friends' artwork up there. Yeah. It's so fantastic to be here at Dimmicks Busselton, where they have an amazing selection of children's books, and Beth and her team are great supporters of literature and kids' literature.
It's beautiful room.
So, it's gorgeous here. And it's just before the Between the Lines Festival, which I've presented at before. Can't be here this year, sadly, but had the best times at Between the Lines before.
Exciting.
I know. And so, all the best to my buddies who are coming down for that, and have a great festival. Yeah. And thank you, Dimmicks Busselton, and thank you, Loosey.
Thank you so much, Dianne.
Okay. Woo.